So our group was, I chaired, Gillian was the scribe, we had the attendees listed there, and originally we were about disseminating research results and to discuss dissemination of results. Now we immediately thought, well, the reality is there's lots of journals out there in research areas, we don't need to tell them how to disseminate what they're doing, so we changed it to disseminating academic research software results and to discuss alternative dissemination of software as the group. And our conclusions, I think, actually lead quite on from a lot of the previous discussions that we'd had this morning from the point of view of value of software developers within the community. So our conclusions was actually to create a new journal around software tools and methods, to take the example that's already been set up for life and chemical sciences by Nature Methods, which was essentially to capture what are increasingly complex protocols that are used in that area that are never actually mentioned in any of their normal journal papers. So actually to give the tools a home, and this has several benefits. We talked earlier about actually making sure developers weren't second-class citizens in universities. The only way you're going to be able to do that is if you make them have value to the university in a way the university understands. The only way you're going to be able to do that is in reality if they're referable. So improve the reputation and standing of software developers by giving them a home for their work in a term that their host institution really understands. So the further work was to actually, the first one was really to actually scope this out. And luckily, whilst we were all having tea and coffee, Brian came up with actually a set of criteria, which I'm going to put here. This wasn't agreed by the group, but I'm going to put it into the slides because I think this is of a lot of value. So the Journal of Research Software, and the criteria are there. The most important part is that it's a tool or service that's actually used within research in the area of scholarship. It must show good software engineering practice. You've got to have some innovation, and the other three criteria are there, and I'm not going to read them because you can read them all there. So our further work, who do we need to talk to? Well, the reality is to do a journal properly, it needs to be, as I said, it needs to be referable, it needs to be involving some sort of group that has reputation. You know, Nature Methods only really works because Nature are backing them up. So we need to think about a similar organisation that's willing to host. We need that accreditation, which does mean we have to have the rules and our criteria, which I showed earlier, fully set out and well publicised. We need an editorial board, which does mean that we need members of the community to volunteer to do some work. And I'm sure there are members of the community here that would be willing to participate in this because, of course, this is also impact, remember? We need to make certain that not only are we actually giving the journal paper somewhere long term, but also in reality we need to make sure the code that's being referenced is almost sort of stored and checkpointed, and this is what is referenced in the journal in this paper at this time, so that we've got somewhere to host this. This would involve someone holding effectively a repository, and we would need to make certain it came with instructions on obviously how you use that. So that's part of the good software engineering that we would expect. You can imagine if we're talking about this here and talking about this being a problem, of course this is an international problem. So we went through a few people that we would like to contact internationally that we know are involved in this area, we know are involved in research software tools development, and we'd like to see if they would like to get involved. The big one we do need, though, is to make sure that we can prove there is a need for this journal, and it's not that we haven't been looking hard enough at places that already exist to publish. But one of the interesting ones that came up earlier was the main Taverna paper is actually in a biochemistry journal. Now, I don't know about you, but I would never look for a paper about a piece of software in a biochemistry journal. It's not a place I normally end up looking. So that's our further work, and that's our group's discussion.